Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to WIF Academy 2023. This is our interdisciplinary courses panel. I'm Pratyush Singh. I'm one of the careers co-heads at Warwick India Forum. I am a first-year economics student.
Hello everyone, I am Tanmay Kurgaonkar. I'm a first year student studying BSc Management and I'm a co-head for careers team at Warwick India Forum.
Before we begin today's event, we would like to introduce you to our panelists. We have with us Sana Mittar. She's a third-year EPAIS student at Warwick. She is a youth leader, an activist, and a change maker. She has her own foundation, BVAN, and she's also a TEDx speaker whilst being the recipient of the Diana Award for the year 2021. Alongside, we have Soham Banerjee, a PPE Year 3 student. He has great experience relevant to the functioning of politics. He's interned at the Indian Political Action Committee on Political Strategy with Trinamool Congress, a leading Indian political party. Further, he has published a research project centered around widening student participation in collaboration with the national law universities in India. We're very glad to have you here. Thank you so much. We would like to begin with module-specific questions. So the first question is, since both of you must have done Stats A and Stats B in year one, what do you think is the most effective approach to, study that module and prepare for the exams?
Right. So in my first year, I took Stats A. There was an option between Stats A and Stats B. Similarly, you have an option between Math A and Math B. Primarily, I feel the decision should be based on what you want to do in year two. That's what my decision was based on as well. If you take Stats B, then you're automatically eligible to take Econometrics 1 in year two. And if you take Stats A, then you can only take applied econometrics. But with Stats B, you have an option between taking applied econometrics or econometrics 1. So I was very clear that I wanted to take applied econometrics and not take econometrics 1, which is why I chose Stats A. Again, for preparing for both of these modules, I think having a clear structure from the start, practicing questions that are given, you'll have a reference bank where you will have all the formulas as well, have the formula sheet with you when you're giving the exam. That is very helpful, I think. And again, it's up to you whether you're a fast typer or you can write certain equations faster and sort of click a picture and put it up. That depends on you, but make sure to have a good knowledge of how you're managing your time during exams, because that's something that's very tricky when it comes to typing equations or putting them in the exam answers for both of these modules.
I also guess, taking help or feedback actually really helped me to do well in stats as well. I didn't want to take metrics in year two. I was clear even before I started the course. But yes, I mean, my teacher was really, really helpful in terms of, helping me out with any doubts that I had. So don't keep the doubts to yourself. As Sana said, keep solving the questions that have been given to you. And if you hit a roadblock, then make sure that you ask your module leader immediately. And I think, that should itself help you excel in these modules. But yeah, Stats B is a lot harder. So if you feel that you're not doing well, then you might, change your perspective towards taking econometrics. So, in the first week, just see whether you're actually enjoying Stats B or you're able to do well. And on that basis, you can make a decision on how you want to pursue your module pathways in year two.
Thank you guys. That was indeed helpful. So the next question is, would it be useful to cover a wide range of readings for philosophy or political essays? Or is it more useful to only focus on a specific set of readings in order to utilize time more efficiently? If Soham, if you would like to answer that question.
I think they're very different and it depends on what essay you're writing. Now, with philosophy, what I've experienced so far is that the more readings that you try to include, the more scattered your argument gets. And what they're looking for is a very coherent and a very, they're looking for an argument which doesn't have loopholes, right? And they're also looking at your independent thought. That is something which, might not be sought after in every single political module, especially those which require you to indulge into empirics. So again, as I mentioned earlier, it's helpful that you ask your teacher what they want from the essay. So, make them do most of the work. So you do the readings, you make a plan, and you submit it to the teacher. And if they find any problems with your argument, or if they have any tips for you, then they'll let you know. But mostly, if you're doing a political essay or a politics essay which requires a lot of focus on statistics and data, then generally you would require more references. So I would say 10 references per 1,000 words should be enough. Make sure that you don't leave any gaps in your argument. But I have written philosophy essays with just 2 references in essays which are 1,500 words long. So it really depends on the module that you select. So, please make sure that you write an email or book an advice and feedback hour with your module lecturer.
Thank you for that, Soham. Moving on, this question is to the floor. Since PPE, EPAIS, and EPP are compound courses, practically consisting of multiple interdisciplinary modules, beyond year 1, which area of study did you move ahead with, and what was your rationale in doing so?
I took the econ pathway. With EPAIS, you're allowed 2 pathways, which is either the econ pathway or the politics pathway. That's what you decide in year 2. But in year 3, you're given a choice to either keep your choice of selecting the econ or the politics pathway, or to convert it into a bipartite pathway. Again, in all of these different options, you basically have a difference of 1 or 2 courses here and there in your core modules. Of course, optional modules are up to you to choose, and up to your discretion. So I took the economics pathway in my second year, where I had a balance of economics 2, applied econometrics, and 2 politics modules, which were international security and public policy. All of my modules were 30 cats each, and my rationale behind taking these modules was because I thought that it would give me a good balance of politics and economics modules, as well as I got the experience of taking a statistical module and doing applied econometrics. So that is why I took this particular pathway. And in my third year, I continued on the econ pathway and primarily took economic modules. So while I had 1 core module, I have 6 other optional modules in my third year. So again, all of this information is on the undergraduate handbook, and while I'm explaining this, it will be very beneficial to go on and read the undergraduate handbook and get a clear idea of what are the core modules and what are the differences between core modules in each of these pathways. And again, like Soham mentioned, looking at your performance in your first or your second year, and seeing, are you good at statistical modules? Are you good with essays? Are you good with subjective modules? Or are you doing better with math related modules? So that sort of a discussion on your end can help you decide better as to which module or which pathway you want to take.
Yeah, fantastic. I think in my case, I wanted my pathway to be extremely customizable. Now, if you're doing PPE or EPP, there are like 6 or 7 permutations and combinations you can do with your pathways, right? But I think the more you look at following the conventional pathway of, say, doing a tripartite with the PPE, you limit yourself in terms of the number of optional modules that you get. Now, I wanted to do philosophy in year 3, so I kept a more open pathway to myself. So I did a BA in econ and politics. As I mentioned earlier, that I didn't want to do metrics because I can tolerate math, but I don't enjoy it. But I do enjoy economics, and I also want my degree to be slightly employable. So I made sure that I did modules which were relevant to the field that I wanted to get into. So I did industrial economics for that. And yes, I mean, I also wanted to do philosophy. So I took a BA, which would allow me to take optional modules in philosophy as well. But yes, I mean, as Sana said, and as I mentioned earlier, balance your interest and aptitude, and also look forward to, what you might want to do in the future while taking your pathways. And I think a mix of all of those three things would help you determine what pathway you take.
Thank you again. Again, the next questions to the floor. What are the key differences between a political, philosophical, and an economics essay? How is the focus structure created for the argument? And how many points should we rely on to back our stance?
Okay, so I think I can give you an idea between a politics and an economics essay, and Soham can then give a difference between philosophy essay as well. So I think primarily between an economics and politics essay, um, if you go onto your reference list or you look at your reading list, you'll find that predominant difference in the kind of readings or references you're taking for each of these essays. For if your essay has a lot of statistical models, if not models that you're creating, but even descriptive statistical models, I think that is more of an economics essay, and an economics essay will require you to back up your arguments in that manner as well. If you're not too great with complicated regression models or something like that, you still might require some sort of descriptive statistics to be put into your essay, or graphical analysis of whatever you're talking about. And I think in economics essays, it is also vital to sort of look at what's been taught in class, how you can implement those models, or how you can implement that learning, and talk about that in your essay. For politics modules, I feel to create a clear structure or an argument, you need to have a very clear understanding of the basis of what topic you're talking about, and the basis of all those political theories that sort of get those ideas into the real world now. For any first or second year politics module, I think any political theory module, you will require to look at different thinkers, what they said, what their arguments were, and critically analyze those arguments. I think one of the most critical feedbacks that I ever received for my politics essays was that I need to be able to talk about my own argument and my own thought process as well, while critiquing different authors, or while critiquing different thinkers. Because I came from the frame of mind that, okay, these are really big and important topics, and I, as a student, can't really critique them, or without having any sort of backing for what I am saying. But instead, I think they want you to take a funnel approach to your essay. They want you to analyze each and everything that an author has said and give your point of view. So essentially, it should be an essay from your eyes, and it should only be backed by the research that you're doing and not the other way around. I think that was very critical for the essays that I looked at. But I think Soham can elaborate more on that.
I mean, think of the process of essay writing as, being a barista at coffee shop, right? Writing a philosophy essay is like making an espresso, right? They want one thing out of you, and you give that one thing to them. You mix milk with an espresso, it becomes a macchiato. They're not looking for a macchiato. They want an espresso from you. So again, make sure that you ask your teachers what they expect or want from the essay, right? But philosophy, depends quite a lot on your independent thought, and you basically picking out every single part of the argument and putting it to the test. Whereas in politics, you can address some parts of the argument, develop a separate argument, you have that sort of independence. Whereas in economics, I don't think they care about your independent thought. It's more descriptive, and it's more about how you are able to understand and analyze the material. Whereas, philosophy is more of, how deep can you think about the particular issue, how independent your thought is, and how you as a philosopher can contribute to the field. So I think politics is in the middle of both econ and philosophy, but there are three very different types of essays. You can't take the same approach to all of these three essays. Let me remind you of that. And again, it's very, very helpful to ask what they expect from your essay, because I think one mistake I made is that I assumed that an economics essay would be similar to a politics essay, and I started talking about how I feel about the macroeconomic situation in Cuba, and well, I got marked down for it. So it's very important to understand what they're expecting, and but delivering the order as according to what the customer has asked for, rather than giving them extra, because they're not asking for it. They're asking for something very specific in philosophy, and maybe a slightly more diverse in politics.
Okay, so this question is particularly for you. PH 133 logic is a fairly new concept for anyone studying philosophy. It's also an in-person exam, so how does one prepare for it most effectively?
So logic is a very interesting module, and I think it's quite easy if you follow the steps, right? Now, Socrates once said that there's one thing I know, is that I know nothing. That's the approach that you have to take with logic, right? Assume that you know nothing about it, and you probably don't, because it's something that's very new, right? And follow every single step that Hemda teaches you. So Hemda is the module lecturer, as far as I know. Be very active in the seminars, and make sure that you solve everything, all the exercises that have been given to you, step by step. Don't skip any step, even if it seems very trivial, right? Like similar to what we did in mathematics when we were in grade 10 and grade 11, that you have marks for the steps. Over here also you have marks for the steps, and it's helpful to you, because if you follow the steps, you'll get closer to the answer. So following everything bit by bit, and again, seeking help, and practice. It's just like mathematics. If you do all of those three things, you'll get a hang of it in lesser than 3 hours. So it's not that difficult as people make it out to be. And yes, I mean, if it's an in-person exam, you would want to practice it on paper. So don't practice it in your mind. Write every single step on paper, and verify it with solved problems given in the lecture slides, and that should be more than enough to get you above an 80. It's not that difficult, and don't overthink about it.
Thank you, Soham. So the next question's to the floor. What is one mistake you feel you made when preparing for exams, and what do you feel you should have changed?
I think this was a problem in my second year exams, which I think I will look at now and ensure that I don't make similar mistakes. There are some modules where you can ensure that you write some model answers beforehand. And I don't just mean having lecture notes, but I mean solving past papers and having some answers written, because even though the questions won't be the same as the past paper questions, you'll still have some answer structures ready for you. And I think during exam time, there are certain small things which take up a lot of time. Writing an introduction for a concept that might come in the exam. For let's say an economics exam, like an economics 2 or economics 1 exam, a certain economic model is gonna come. Having those graphs already made, and or if you're making them on paper, click a picture, keep it in your phone, or if you're making them digitally, have those graphs made, because that saves up on a lot of time when it comes to the exam. And because at that time you can just focus on critically analyzing the question, writing that part, and you don't have to focus on the smaller bits and pieces that that will make your answer complete, because you would want to give a really well written, well structured answer, but it takes a lot of time. So I think having these things written down beforehand will be really helpful for any statistical module or econometrics module. I think having those certain equations written down, having a few, I think if your module has any a particular model or equation that needs to be derived, having those derivations already written down If you think, your tutor said that these derivations might come in the exam, it's handy to just have them there. And I think similarly for politics exams, um, there are about 16 to 18 odd topics that are covered in any politics module every week, except the 2 reading weeks. So about 16 to 18 topics essentially. And some of the political theory modules will always have similar theories that will be discussed. You will always have liberalism, Marxism, post-colonialism, feminism. You'll always have these theories that you will discuss. And of course, as you progress through the years, you will have new authors that will come up, you will have new ideologies that will come up, but have a basic structure of all of these theories, I would say, because it really helps in the exam. Because if they give you a question where you have to analyze one theory against another, you have those things ready in front of you, and you don't really have to take that time during the exam to do all of that. So I think that was my mistake. I didn't prepare answers in such a manner. While I did past papers, I just solved it on paper, which was of no use to me when it came to actually typing the exam. And I'm a slow typer, so that always gets to me. And I think this time the econ department has reduced the 45-minute upload time to 25 minutes. So the amount of time that people used to take to write answers in that time frame, we won't have that much time. So it's better that you have stuff written down beforehand, and make sure you write it. It's not a copy paste of lecture slides, because then you will be paraphrasing during exam time to avoid plagiarism. So I think just have your thoughts written down.
Yeah, I'd very quickly chip in and say that don't be shy in asking questions. Even if you look stupid in your seminars, just ask questions, because if you don't learn, then that's going to come and bite you when you're writing your examinations. And also make sure that the questions that you ask, beg your pardon, the questions that you ask them early, because I ended up asking my questions 3 days before my examinations, and I didn't do very well in that examination. So make sure that you ask your questions very early, and make sure that you understand the concepts well in advance of the exams. I would probably say 2 weeks before, so that you have time to practice them and apply them, when you're prepping for your examination. So yeah.
Okay, so I'm quickly coming back to you. So how can we find material to practice for the economics 2 exam?
I beg your pardon, can you repeat the second part of the question, please?
How can we find material to practice for the economics 2 exam?
Right, yes. So economics too, very tricky, and they will try to trick you during your examination. It's not an easy examination. I mean, it's easy, but it's not straightforward. Make sure that you use every single resource that you have available to you, right? Use your lectures, read the theory on your textbooks, go through your in-class questions, go through your pre-class questions. Very important. Most students don't do their pre-class questions. And there was a very high marked question that was asked last year, which came from the pre-class questions, which most people could not answer. So make sure that you practice every single paper or material that has been given to you. I think an extra tip for the economics 2 examination would be, do not panic. And if you're not able to answer a question, then just move on to the next question, because the more time you spend on a particular question which is purposely tricky, the more time it's going to take of you, and you won't be able to succeed in the examination. So do everything that is available to you. Ask all questions. I don't think they ask you questions beyond the material that has been given to you. And just stay calm. And if you stay calm, you win, and you can get a decent score.
Thank you, Soham. So the next question's again to the floor. For the PO 107 module, that is Introduction to Politics, the summer exam, how should we prepare, considering the readings are very vast and we don't have much time till the exam?
So I think I touched upon this in my last answer, which is, again, you will have about 18 topics. If you feel you don't have enough time and you've not gone through all of the lectures, maybe looking at certain political theories will be beneficial. I think you are supposed to answer 2 or 3 questions. I don't exactly remember, but I think 2 or 3 questions you're supposed to answer in the exam. So I would say ideally being very well versed with 5 or 6 topics at least, because you never know how they might change up a question. I was very confident with post-colonialism, and then the exam had a question which was very tricky, and I couldn't really answer that. So things might not go to plan. You might think you're very confident in a certain topic, but I wouldn't say that confine yourself down to 2 or 3 topics only. At least look at 5 or 6 topics. Make sure you have good notes for those. And do the readings for just these 5, 6 topics. Ensure that you do the recommended readings first, the compulsory readings, the textbooks, and then the additional readings that they give. And do the additional readings just for those topics, I guess, and have notes made for these readings, because I think that will really help take your answers to up that notch. Like if you just look at lecture notes and what's discussed during the lectures and answer with that, you won't really get good marks. But if you do include the readings and write down stuff that you've understood from the readings and analyze that in the exam, I think that will be beneficial.
Also go through the past papers. They're not here to trouble you, right? And there are certain questions which are asked every year. So go through those questions. And yeah, I mean, you don't have to prepare every single chapter. I mean, you can use some chapters to critique other chapters. So you can study both liberalism and Marxism, and you can use, the material you've prepared from Marxism to critique liberalism. So, I mean, I would generally say that in year 2, maybe start making notes when you are actually doing the chapter than waiting till the end to prepare for your examinations. I think that's not the best thing you can do. But I mean, again, I mean, in year 1, they're more lenient with the marking, and they do not expect you to write the best answers. But I think overall, if you prepare, I would say 7 to 8 chapters, just do the recommended readings, make good notes, and again, I think one very important thing which I think I should emphasize on: make sure that you're critical of every single approach. So whatever you're trying to explain, make sure that you have a good understanding of what it actually means, what liberalism actually means, and then start critiquing liberalism, and perhaps make a concluding statement highlighting the merits of each approach that you've taken. And engaging in critical thinking really helps you get more marks. So if you take that approach with all of your answers, you're already at a 65. So that's very helpful.
Okay, so I understand you took a political theory module earlier. So how can a counter argument, has to be phrased? How do you think the political theorist would probably respond to it? Or does it have to be from the existing literature that is provided to the students?
I think the understanding of the existing literature is extremely important. But I mean, in terms of how, so say if I am writing the answer on Martin Luther King, right? I want to read every single document that is relevant to what is being taught about Martin Luther King, right? Now, I have an understanding of what the perspective of Martin Luther is. And then, on that basis, I can build on an argument. So make sure that, you're not making an argument which would make no sense from Martin Luther's side. So, make sure that you have an understanding of 2 or 3 basic points that, Martin Luther is focusing on, and just say that, if this is what Martin Luther is saying, then he would also agree to, he would agree to the Black Lives Matter movement. So make sure that your understanding of the theory is extremely steadfast. Then, you can use your own critiques, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that political philosophers know a lot more than you. So I don't think you might have the best argument against these particular theorists who are in the course, because they have made some great contributions. So in the reading list that has been given to you, if you go through the recommended readings, you will find critiques to every single approach. And if you read a couple of them, I think you're ready to answer the question. And again, you're constrained for time. They're not looking for more than one or two arguments. You don't have to have the best understanding of the particular theorist. So I think having a very good understanding of that theorist and a couple of critiques is enough to answer the question. So again, don't take a lot of stress. It's not that difficult. Follow the guidelines that your teachers are giving you, and you'll be more than good to score well in your political theory examinations.
Okay, thank you. The next question is for both of you guys. Is it important to go through an extensive reading list before writing an essay? And what type of referencing should one use, and how detailed should it be in an exam scenario?
I think definitely it is essential to go through most of the readings for the topic that you're doing. Recommended readings, I would say, for every topic that you study in class. But of course, there's an extensive list of further reading that you can do on a particular topic. And I think that is very essential when you're writing an essay, because otherwise your argument's very constrained, and it's very very basic, so as to say, and you won't really have a lot of different I different point of views that you sort of take into account. And I think, as Soham mentioned before, that most of the reading list will have a critique of different arguments. So you will have somebody who's writing for a particular argument, or somebody who's writing against that. And the reading lists are very well balanced in that manner. For me personally, I also do a little bit of external research and don't just confine myself to the reading list, which is also very important, because one of my tutors did tell me that a lot of times when they mark your essay, they first go to your reference list, see the kind of references that you've used. Do you have a good mix of books, journal articles, articles from newspapers, and if it's a political essay which is set in the 21st century, and it's not about a theory, but you're writing about something that's happening day to day right now, then do you have news articles, news feeds, at this point infographics, videos, and everything? And it can all be referenced, interviews with certain people. So they said that we do look at your reference list and the kind of references that you've used, and how many different sources have you been able to engage. That does not go on to say that you have to have one of everything in your reference list. That's not necessary. What suits your argument, do that. But at the same time, I would I would say it's very essential to also do some sort of external research and go beyond the reading list as well. As for the referencing style, go to your handbook, and you will they've written what sort of a referencing style they want you to use. I've always used the Harvard referencing style. Again, every department has that written in their handbook, so please go and read that and see what referencing style your department wants you to do. And if you're a first year student and you don't really know how it works, there are really good resources at the Warwick Library, and there's a avoiding plagiarism and learning referencing course on Moodle as well, which is open to all students. So you can do that as well. And there's a handbook that is available at Warwick Library online, and you will be able to understand how referencing is done through that.
I would also suggest that the quantity of your references, while they do matter, they only play very less significant role. I think your quality of references matter more. So when you're using journal articles, make sure that they're well referenced. I would say at least 20 people have used it in their own work. Just don't select an article from a rando who only has one or two citations. Make sure that the source or the author is very good. Also, I mean, reading is very important. I think I take 4 to 5 days off while writing an essay just to read, to understand understand, what are the possible trajectories the argument can take. And once I start, feeling that, the arguments are getting exhausted, and, there are these 2 or 3 lines of thought, I pick what, resonates the most with me, or I think is the most relevant to the essay, and then I bring that argument ahead and write. So, I mean, yes, referencing is important, but do not stat pad it. I think I would say that quality is slightly more important than quantity. And even if you use maybe 3 or 4 less references and write a fantastic essay using just a couple of references which have good content, I think they should be okay as well. So there is no magic formula for how many references or readings you have to do, but I would suggest that read a lot and refer the articles which are only relevant.
Okay, thank you so much. So now we would move on to more general questions. So the first thing is, examinations bring stress along with them, and it happens to the best of us. So it's a part and parcel of the process. So I would like to ask you both, what is your go-to approach to, deal with that stress, and how do you optimally come out of it and perform better?
That's a difficult question. Honestly, I don't know the best way to deal with stress. I'm no expert on that or any of the things that I've said before. Not an expert, just experience. Whatever little bit I have. I think what works for me is, honestly, I can't sit in front of a screen all day long. I'll work for a few hours, then probably listen to some music or whatever, get out of my room or the place that I'm studying. Um, or have a change of environment every few days. If I've been studying in my room for a long period of time, I'll go to the library, I'll go to campus. Just have a change of environment. That really helps. And Yeah, I think like taking walks for me, I really enjoy that, and that helps me de-stress. uh but of course, like a lot of people everyone has a different coping mechanism. Everyone deals with it differently. Working out, meditation, reading, watching your favorite show, cooking, stuff like that, whatever floats your boat. But yeah, I think having something to do apart from just studying for exams is very important.
I think plan your day out or plan your week out, right? Make sure that nothing comes to you as a surprise or a burden. Understand what you have to do, and then just make a timetable. Keep it flexible, though. Don't keep it extremely, don't keep it stringent, because you might get more stress from, managing a very full timetable. Make sure that you drink a lot of water. It's quite underrated, because it when your eyes dry up, then it becomes slightly difficult to concentrate, especially when you're in front of a screen. Sleep a lot. I mean, I sleep 9 hours before my examinations, because I don't care about anything else. I need my sleep. I need to make sure that while I am working on my prep for essays or examinations, I am well rested. So and avoid alcohol, avoid other distractions. Make sure that I mean, do hang out with your friends as well. Make sure that your mind space is not only occupied by your studies, as Sana said. Maybe listen to music. I would not read personally, but watch some movies. And yes, I mean, if you plan everything well, and if you just take care of your body and treat yourself like a human being, then you should. I mean, it's easier said than done, actually, considering that you have a lot of stress on your head. But if you plan things well, and if you keep some principles to follow, then it shouldn't be that problematic.
Thank you again. So the next question is, how important are first year grades, for securing good summer internships now that we'll be applying for a few in the coming few months? Sana, if you would like to go ahead by answering this question.
Yeah. So, I think what I've noticed essentially is it depends on what sector you're applying to. If you're looking for spring internships or summer internships, in, let's say, consulting firms, the big four, or banking, they will ask you for your grades. Of course, they have a tedious process, and you will have to give a lot of tests and everything. Some of these application forms do ask for your test grades or your grades in first year, but again, they don't have very stringent policies. I mean, I think BCG is one consulting firm that asks for your grades in the first application that they use. There are some of these firms that ask you for your grades after you've done your job sim, and then they'll ask you for your grades, when they might also ask for your high school grades, since you're a first year university student. Again, I don't think you should be stressed a lot about it, because having a 2-1 mostly is enough in all of these firms. I personally did not apply to consulting or banking internships. I looked at public sector internships, and I interned with the United Nations. There, while they did ask for my grades, it didn't play a significant role in securing the internship, because it's a primary basic check that they do, that you're doing well in university, you have a basic understanding of what kind of a role you're applying for, and you will be a good employee or a good intern there, and they can invest that time and energy into you. But after that, I think it's their test, it's the job sim, it's the AC that really counts, and I think WIF is gonna help with that. The careers team is gonna be helping with those things. So I think grades it's just the start of it.
Okay, quickly coming back to you. Do you have any schedule making or time management tips? And how should one cope with modules that have close deadlines and exam dates to others?
Soham, do you want to take the answer? Because I
Yeah,
also
yeah.
take some notes about planning. I'm not good
Yeah.
with it.
Fair enough. I think don't take pity on yourself, because if you do that, then you've basically lost. Like, you should be mentally prepared that you might have examinations. Some people I know have had examinations on the same day. I don't think that's the case with politics and economics and all the attached modules. But yes, I mean, first of all, understand where you require to put more time, right? So for me, economics, even though I am good at economics, I think it takes me more time to understand. So I always take more time in understanding the concepts and trying to solve various equations. Whereas for me, politics is not that difficult. So I put a slightly lesser time in politics. Also, make sure that you mix your stuff around. So maybe take 3 days off for economics, and then the next 3 days do politics. Don't do the same thing again and again, because that's basically making it extremely monotonous, and you'll stop enjoying something which you in general might like, because it becomes more of a stress than a learning process. So mix things up. I think that's something that's really helped me. And again, make sure that the certain priorities that you meet, the certain goals that you meet, but make sure that your plans are not very strict as well. Keep them flexible. If some things don't happen, if you don't wish to study in a particular day, you're having a headache, or maybe you just want to go out with your mates, allow yourself to do that, because that is what makes your plan a good plan, because you're able to accommodate everything in it. So you have to spend a lot of time in making the plan. I usually take 20 to 30 minutes, and I'm always planning, I'm always making changes to my plan. It has to be flexible. It takes time to learn, but once you get a hang of it, once you get used to it, then it becomes a lot easier to manage your academics and your stress. So do things that you enjoy. Keep your things keep your schedule flexible, and mix things up, and put more time on things that require more attention, and I think you should be okay for your examinations.
Thank you so much for the answer. I think with that, we'll come to the close, and it's been a wonderful interaction. Thank you so much for your time. And we're sure that this will be very helpful to all our members. Thank you.